As we all know, President Trump has proposed a quote-unquote $54 billion increase in the defense budget for 2018, but that's measured against the sequestration level. So against, let's say, President Obama's level, which may be a more reasonable benchmark, as your slide shows, it's only about a $20 billion increase, which is real money, but only, a few percent of the defense budget overall. And what you are now suggesting is that President Trump's proposal is not enough, and you want to add roughly another $37 billion to what he's suggested. And I wondered if you could, partly because I think our technology is failing here, but lay out a little bit of what the major components of that additional $37 billion would be, and then we can maybe talk a little bit about each of them, if that's
Sure.
okay.
Well, again, just a little bit of context. Last year, as House Republicans were putting together an agenda to run on, the Speaker asked our committee to look at what we think needs to be spent on defense. What would it take to repair the damage that has been done from 8 years of CRs, 5 years of the Budget Control Act, a high operational tempo? All of these things have accumulated. So his charge to us was, okay, let's figure out what it would take. President Trump is elected, he starts talking about a specific size Navy, et cetera. So what we did was to say, how much money would accomplish the goals that President Trump has set forward, but could be responsibly spent, we believe, in fiscal year 2018. And that's where we end up at $640 billion. I think that the budget that the administration will propose is roughly 3% more than what President Obama had suggested for this year. It's roughly a 5% increase over current year funding. So I think it is fair to say it's basically the Obama approach with a little bit more, but not much. What's the difference? We tried to lay that out, and I think this shows some broad categories. Air dominance, for example, is about $10 billion above what President Obama had suggested. Now these are kind of broad labels. That's not just more airplanes. That includes the maintenance and the operations, the training that's required for us to go against high-end adversaries like Russia, China, which we have not done so much of in recent years. So that's the reason you see these categories there. Some of it are bringing our ground forces up to date. Some of it is ballistic missile defense. And if I were to look at this today, looking at what's happened with North Korea, I'm not sure we put enough into missile defense, both increasing the number of interceptors in current systems, which are woefully short, and research into other kinds of systems that hopefully will be more effective and cost effective. I'm not sure we put enough into munitions, by the way. There was a little bit in munitions in the appropriation bill that just passed. We put some here, but we have some significant munitions shortages in various items if you look at it. But that's the reason that there are these categories. I'm afraid when we talk about budgets, we get into these numbers games and say, oh, this number, that number, throw them around. What we lose sight of is what those numbers mean and which capabilities are we willing to forego with a different level of budget. I think we have to be concrete about that because the men and women out on the front lines will have their life affected by what we're not fixing, by the new capability we're not getting, or whatever choices we make. And we need to make it more concrete rather than okay, 640, 620, we'll split the difference, that sort of thing, which is usually the way this debate devolves.